like a couple of immune boosting peptides. So the T alpha 1 and LL37. So I'd love for you to, give your thoughts on that. A lot of people, I mean, autoimmune conditions or Lyme disease, these are rampant and it's devastating. So what are your thoughts on these two peptides?
Yeah, so I'll start with the thymus alpha one because after the SS31, it is one of my favorite products.
Mm.
It again is like the cerebrolizin approved in multiple different countries, and is just again a great product for improving the immune system. Even early in COVID, it was hypothesized to have a beneficial effect with COVID. It was actually even nominated for FDA approval here in the United States to be given as an adjuvant to vaccines to make them work better, as well as to be used with certain types of cancers to help the immune system fight your own cancer. And so the thymus alpha one as an immune stimulant is a product I certainly like. Again, it's a natural product as well. One of my other anecdotes that I always like to mention about that is that thymus alpha 1 is upregulated significantly during pregnancy as a way to sort of help the body's immune system function for essentially two people. And so that's actually one of the biggest times we see massive increases of its own production naturally. So I'm a huge fan of the thymus alpha 1. I think it's very hard to dose it incorrectly or too often or for conditions. Almost any condition, it has a sort of an immune normalizing effect. So I'm a very, very big fan.
Well, my question is, if you're coming down with a cold, if you ever come down with a cold, will you grab a T alpha 1 right away?
Certainly. Yeah, certainly. Yes. And definitely in those days of COVID, I was keeping it around. I'll tell you that for sure. Yes, so I think that its ability to help with a multitude of viral infections, to help even with cancer, improving the immune system and decreasing that immunescence that we see with age. Definitely a big fan of the thymus alpha one.
And what about the LL37? How well do you think it has worked for chronic infections from what you've seen?
I am not as big of a fan of the LL37. Yeah, so I again, we were the first people to start doing this at TaylorMade, and it's one of those ones I regret launching a little bit because it's really again, it's an endogenously produced antimicrobial peptide, something that's naturally produced by our bodies. But the problem, I think, is dosing it systemically because the LO37 can activate 7 different types of receptors, all with different mechanisms of action. And so knowing what receptors is actually activating and where it's actually activating is very, very complicated. And there have now been even more recent studies showing that LO37 has been linked to things like Alzheimer's, among others. And so, again, I think
linked, you mean causing?
It does look to be causal instead of just correlative. I can imagine why many people would think it'd be correlative because your body might want to upregulate antimicrobial peptides in types of situations that might also then induce Alzheimer's. But it does look to have some causative effects and mechanism rather than just correlative. But again, it's so hard to say because it has so many different impacts on receptors. And these are big G-coupled protein receptors that have multitude of downstream effects. And so knowing what you're getting with the LL37 is sometimes very tough. But I think for things like topical administration, to fight, staph or some of those other things, I certainly don't think is a bad idea. But antimicrobial peptides are probably one of the biggest growing areas in all of peptide development. And so I'm sure that if LL37 is not the one we like, we'll certainly find more.
Yeah, it's very popular in the Lyme community. Everybody has heard about LL37. So, now I'm a little concerned whether or not this is the best thing for these patients.
Yeah, I'll send you some information. But there was actually even just a study that was published last year, 2022, which shows that how it might have some negative effects in that human microglia.